1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media. Welcome to Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. The NCAA first and second round news conferences begin in just a few minutes with student athletes from UNC Asheville. They're coming through security right now. As soon as we know which student athletes will be available, we will let you know. But in the main interview area and in the locker room, we'll have student athletes and the head coach available for the first 30 minutes of today's session. Ladies and gentlemen, in just a few moments, we'll be joined by UNC Asheville student athletes Sam Hughes, Dwayne Sutton, and Will Weeks. They'll be here for 15 minutes while the UNC Asheville locker room is also open with the student athletes who will not be joining us in here. Head coach Nick McDevitt will also join us for a 15-minute time period during the time where he is not in here in the main interview room with us. He will be available in the UNC Asheville locker room as well. UNC Asheville is first in just a few moments. We'll let you know when the student athletes arrive in the interview area. Just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, as we are set to begin shortly, make sure when in the main interview room all weekend long to silence your cell phone. Please refrain from the use of flash photography. A reminder that in this room, the use of video recording devices, handheld cameras, mini cameras, phone cameras, etc. are prohibited. We have satellite information. We'll get to that in just a few moments because we want to maximize time with our student athletes. And joining us here from UNC Asheville, the Bulldogs, Sam Hughes, Dwayne Sutton, and Will Weeks. We're looking for questions for the student athletes right now. We have one on the left. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Our microphone attendant, Erica and Patrick, will bring it to you. Your name and media outlet and your question.
Paul Gotham, PickandSplinters.com. You guys played a bunch of close games, particularly in your regular season play in the Big South. How do you feel that that's prepared you for this stage now?
We're going to start with our senior, Sam Hughes.
You know, it allows us to go out and play hard all the time, no matter what the situation is. You know, close games is what we're used to, like you said, and you know, it allows us to play, you know, as hard as we can for all 40 minutes. And I feel like coming into this tournament, that's something that we're going to have to do is play our hardest basketball, our best basketball for the entire 40 minutes.
And we're going to move to Dwayne, followed by Will. Dwayne first.
Oh, yeah, close games keep us together throughout the game. We know when we get down, we definitely can come back. We just got to make sure we stay together and stick to the course and see what happens in the last 4 minutes, most ball games. And coming into this game, Villanova's a good team, a great team, and we're going to stick together, play as hard as we can, see what happens.
Will.
Yeah, close games is good. We definitely, it'll help you because, you know, every team in a tournament is good. So there's definitely going to be some close games. And when you prepare all season for this, it just helps you get through it.
We have our UNC Asheville student athletes, and we have a question down in the front. Just remember your name and media outlet before your question.
Sure. Luke Notestein, WLOS in Asheville. Guys, anytime you get to play in the NCAA tournament, I mean, it's what you dream about. From the time you guys left Asheville until now, what's the experience been like just being here in New York?
We're going to go in that same order. Sam first.
It's a great opportunity. You know, like you said, it's something that we dream about all our lives, you know, playing basketball as kids. And for it to actually happen, to actually be here in this moment, it kind of leaves you at a loss of words, you know, not really know how to explain it, just try to enjoy it and embrace the moment.
Oh, yeah, for me, a freshman, being able to play here, it's a big deal for me and my seniors. I tried my hardest to get them here, and I did. And we got a big game coming up tomorrow. And it's kind of like, personally, for me, it's like a business trip. You know, I'm enjoying the city, taking everything in, but also ready to play a big game.
Well.
And it's definitely exciting, you know, coming from a smaller city like Asheville to, you know, New York, huge, lights everywhere, everything going on, busy, you know, it's just exciting, you know, and we all, as kids, watching TV, NCAA tournament, you know, hoping one day that you'll get there, and you finally get there, and it's just amazing, a wonderful feeling.
For the next question, we're going to go to the right. Nicole?
For any of the players, when you draw a team that's a 2 seed, you know, obviously it's a good team, but when you look at Villanova's track record the last few years, they're very beatable in the early rounds of the tournament. Is that something that you guys talked about or can look as inspiration for pulling off a big upset? We're going to start once again with Sam.
In these kind of situations, I don't think we look at the opponent too much. You know, we just kind of focus on us and try to work on what we know, which is what got us here. You know, continue to play the game of basketball the way we've played thus far. So, you know, we pay attention to certain things, but in all, we kind of try to focus on us and just continue to do what got us here.
Dwayne, did you want to take that one as well?
Yeah, I think every team here is beatable, but we also know they're a great team, and Jay Wright does a great job of getting the guys ready each and every year. But we just got to play our hardest and stick to the process and see what happens.
Final thought from Will?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, if they're a 2 seed, they definitely have to be good. You know, they're ranked #1 in the country for a long while. So, I mean, you just prepare to do what you do, you know, what got you here. And just, I mean, they're another team. You know, they lace up shoes just like us. It's 5-on-5. So we're just going to play our game and hope for the best.
We have a few more minutes for questions for the student athletes from UNC Asheville before we allow them to return to the locker room and join their teammates. Another question down in front.
Sure. Hey, guys. if people haven't followed you guys and they look at the roster and they say, hey, there's not anybody over 6'6", and these guys don't have size, but you guys play with an intensity, especially on the defensive end. You guys dive for loose balls. You get rebounds. Where does that hunger come from to kind of do the nitty-gritty work to be successful?
Once again, we'll go with Sam first.
I think it comes from knowing that we are a bit undersized. That we lack size when we play against a lot of teams, so we have to bring that energy and that extra effort to try to win games. And I think it's worked this far, and that's one of the things that we're going to continue to do here this weekend.
Dwayne also?
Oh, yeah, knowing we're small helps us because we got to play a lot more aggressive, even to have a chance. We kind of try to gain a rebound over bigger teams such as Georgetown, and that paid off well. And we just try to play as hard as we can for as long as we can, and it kind of helps. It works.
And Will?
Yeah, as my two teammates said, it's not always about size. We know that we're smaller, so we just got to play even harder, use our speed and the things that we play to our advantage, and just battle. We're family, so just battle together.
Another question on the right side. Please remember your name and media outlet first.
Hi, Ralph Russo, Associated Press. You mentioned the size disadvantage, I guess, that you guys normally have, but this is not a team in Villanova that is particularly big. I don't know, maybe they play somewhat similarly to you. When you see them, do you see some similarities, and B, do you think that the fact that they're not as big helps you?
Sam first.
I didn't quite understand the question. I'm sorry.
They're not a huge team either. Does that at all help the fact that, that you guys aren't, again, are a team that is a little bit of at a size disadvantage often?
Yeah, I think it's definitely easier on us when guys aren't as big. They do have one guy in particular that's good size, but like I said in the beginning, regardless of the size, we're still gonna go out and just play basketball like we know to play it. So yeah.
Yeah, Villanova doesn't have overly huge guys, but they do have like a system that works to their players. They have I think 5 guys that shot over 100 threes, which is a huge number considering we only have one who did that. And we are one of the best teams in the nation at guarding at 3, and they're one of the best teams at shooting it. So it's going to be like string versus string. So we hopefully they miss a few shots.
And Will, final thought from you.
Yeah, definitely. I think it helps to not have to go up against as more taller defenders and things like that. So it just helps us, plays more to our strategy. But like Dwayne said, they're a 3-point shooting team, and we defended the 3-point line really well this year. So that's just what we're going to have to keep doing.
We'd like to thank Sam, Dwayne, and Will for joining us down here in the main interview room. They're going to return to the locker room right now where they and the rest of their teammates are going to be available for about 10 more minutes. Thank you, guys. Rough ride over. Looking for the stairs, Coach? I think, what did Larry Duck told me already, too? Where's their coach, though? Always. We should be joined, ladies and gentlemen, by UNC Asheville head coach Nick McDevitt in just a moment. The UNC Asheville locker room is open for about 7 more minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach McDevitt has arrived in the main interview room. There you go, Coach. Good. Yeah, no problem. Joining us now in the main interview room for a few minutes is Nick McDevitt, the head coach of the UNC Asheville Bulldogs. We'll ask Coach McDevitt to open things up with a statement, then we'll take questions.
Well, first of all, we're certainly excited to be here in New York City, participating in the NCAA tournament against a terrific program in Villanova. It's a tall order, a tall task, something certainly going to be challenging tomorrow afternoon, but our young men are looking forward to that. So we're looking forward to tomorrow.
Coach McDevitt has a few minutes for questions before the open practice begins. First question for Coach, down in front. Just remember to please use the microphones. Introduce yourself by name and media outlet before you ask your question.
Coach, Luke Notestein, WLOS. Your last game was in Bowie's Creek, North Carolina, and now you're in Brooklyn. I asked the guys, what's the experience been like going from that to this? What's it been like for you?
Great. Really, it's hopefully not a once-in-a-lifetime experience, but at the same time, each one of those things individually, that is playing somebody like Villanova, playing in the NCAA tournament, playing in the Barclays Center, those are things that not everybody gets a chance to do. We're doing them all in one day. And so the experience of all that, and that's something we've talked to our young men about, is at some point you have to be able to enjoy the experience, be excited about what we're getting a chance to do, but also understand we've got a game to play against a really, really good team. And, we want to compete tomorrow. We also want to advance. That's going to be very, very difficult. So if we're distracted in any way whatsoever, our chances are very, very limited.
Next question comes all the way on the left in the front.
Hi, Paul Gotham, PickandSplinters.com. Played a lot of close games in your conference season. How does that prepare your guys, particularly a young team, for this stage? We've actually talked about that at length as a team, as a staff, that tournament games going into our conference tournament anyway, we were talking about the fact that we had played in so many close games, not always coming out on the right side, but played in a lot of close games nonetheless, and how we felt like we would be more comfortable than our opponent just because of how many of those games were so close for us. So hopefully tomorrow it's still close at that last media, and see what happens over the last 3 or 4 minutes. But, hopefully our young men, because of the games that we've played in the past, some of our upperclassmen have played against Duke and Kentucky, and this year playing Georgetown and Texas A&M, having the opportunity to play in arenas that are 20,000 seats in front of a lot of folks on national television. Hopefully those kinds of things as well cause us to have a little bit more of a level of comfort tomorrow afternoon.
Coach, our next question's on the right side toward the center. Larry?
Yeah, hi, Larry Fleischer, Associate Press. You were the associate head coach 4 years ago when you lost in the 116 game to Syracuse by 7. What are some of the things that you can impart from that experience to the team into this game?
We talked at length this week about how one of the reasons that we felt like we were in that game was because of the preparation leading up to the game. Our team wasn't that year in 2012 just happy to be here. They wanted to win and felt like they could win. So we talked to our young men here about having the same kind of attitude and effort leading up to the game. Our practices were going to have to be tough. The attitude towards the game was going to have to be, we want to win. Otherwise, you have no chance before the ball goes in the air.
We have another question on the right side.
Hi, Seth Berkman from the New York Times. I have a bit of a strategic question for you. When you're playing in a bigger arena like this tomorrow, sold-out crowd, as a coach, do you prefer to have the players on your end of the court near the bench in the first half or the second half in terms of communicating with them and being able to relay what you want in that kind of environment?
That's a good question. I think for us, we talk about communication a lot, and particularly in the first half, you're defending on your end of the floor. And so the guys that are not in the game, the players on the bench, are able to help the players on the floor, talking to them about, whether somebody's trying to overload the zone or somebody's cutting on the baseline, and watch the back screen, those kinds of things. You're usually a little bit better in the first half than you are in the second, because, as you mentioned, in the second, you're on the other end of the floor, and it's just the five of you. And so, as far as a preference, I don't know that I have one. I just think that, we talk to our players about the importance of being just a little bit better at defensive communication in the second half, because you're not going to have help with the coaches and the players, and sometimes even the fans behind you. There probably will be a lot of Nova fans here tomorrow afternoon, so I don't think they'll be helping us too much on that other end.
Next question's in the back on the aisle. Ryan?
Ryan Fannin with Villanova Radio. Coach, if you could take a look at two games for us, what you did so well in the Georgetown game that allowed you to get that victory, and then maybe on the opposite side, the Texas A&M game, and what allowed that game to get away from you.
I thought early against Texas A&M, they just had so much size at every position that gave us a little bit of trouble early in the season. And I also thought that our young players were still playing young at that point in the season. When you're playing Dwayne Sutton, Dylan Smith, some of our freshmen, 30-some minutes a game for an entire year, at this point in the season anyway, the hope is they're starting to play like sophomores. And I just thought at that point in the year we were still playing inexperienced. I think some of our younger players don't necessarily play as inexperienced as their classification says they are. The other part is, we've been pretty good late in the second half of the season at our 1-3-1 gap defense. We, at that point in the season, were still working on it in practice and not very good at it in games. And so being able to use that and keep teams off balance has been something that's helped us later in the year. And, I believe we ended up number one in the country at defending the three-point line as far as three-point field goal percentage defense, and I think fourth in steals. So a lot of what we do and our successes is predicated on what we're doing on the defensive end of the floor.
We'd like to thank Coach McDevitt for joining us here in the main interview room. Wish him luck as he enters the matchup tomorrow. Coach McDevitt and the Asheville Bulldogs are going to leave their locker room and head out to the practice floor for open practice. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Hello. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Barclays Center here in Brooklyn, New York. The news conference is preceding the NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Championship first round here in Brooklyn. We'll be joined in just a moment by student athletes from Temple University in Philadelphia, followed by their head coach, Fran Dunphy. Just a reminder, while joining us here in the interview room today and all weekend, please silence all cell phones. Please refrain from the use of flash photography. Please be reminded that video recording devices, even camera phones, are not permissible in this room. We have satellite information for you in the back, or you can approach the dais when we have a break if you need the satellite information. We do have 2 microphone stewards. We have Erica and Patrick to help you get your questions answered. If you do have a question, please raise your hand, and we will send our microphone steward to you. And right now, we'd like to welcome from Temple, Devontae Watson, Jalen Bond, Devin Coleman, and Quentin DeCozy joining us here. Their teammates are in their locker room available for the next 30 minutes. The first question is on the right side for Roger.
Roger Rubin from Newsday. Question for Quentin and Jalen. You guys at the beginning of this season had a lot of opportunities for high-profile victories, but didn't come up with wins in any of them. And then at the end of December, beginning of January, you started to cash in on those opportunities. What changed the arc of your season in your mind?
We're going to start with Jalen, and then we'll finish with Quentin.
Just our focus. You know, like you said, we lost a couple of close games earlier within the season. So we just went to the drawing board, to have to focus on, like, the team concepts, playing hard together, to help motivate us towards the end of the season.
And Quentin.
I just think playing against those big teams early really helped prepare us for later in the season when we played against some other great teams and we found a way to get some wins. So.
Continuing with questions for our student athletes, we have one right on the aisle. Name and media outlet first.
Ryan Lazar, New York Post. Quentin, this is for you. How much did those road wins help you early in the season, get to this point now? How much did that help you in the tournament?
It helped us a lot. It helped our team, knowing that we could win on the road against great teams, and I think it really brought us together as a team. Whenever we get down in a stretch or it's a close game, we found a way to come together as a team and figure it out.
Next question's on the right side.
Howard Mendel with Vice Sports. This is for Devin, Jalen, and Devontae. To have Fran Dunphy as your coach, growing up as a Philadelphia legend, I'm just curious what you guys heard, if you remember sort of your first impressions of Coach Dunphy, and then what your impressions were when you finally got to meet him.
Devontae first, then Jalen, then Devin.
Well, I mean, I was told that he was a great coach, honorable coach, and he's just a great human being. And I mean, from knowing him now, as long as I've known him, everything checked out. So I mean, he's been a great guy and great mentor, great person to have, by your side. So I'm grateful for having a coach like that.
Yeah, like Devontae said, hearing a lot of stories growing up about him, how great of a guy he was on and off the court. He's always going to be honest with you. He's going to tell you what you don't want to hear. But I mean, it helps you for the long run. He turns boys into men, and that's what he did.
Deb.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what those guys said, obviously coming up in Philadelphia, he was somebody that a lot of us were really familiar with. Like these guys said, I heard a lot of the positive things. He's a straight shooter, keep honest with you and everything like that. And, he's a really nice guy when I went for my recruiting trips and everything like that. But then when you watch a practice and you see he starts to get into guys a little bit. But, I mean, that's a good thing. That's what you want as a player. So, I think that he's everything that you would ask for in a coach.
Next question's on the right side toward the middle.
Yeah, John Sears, WHO-TV from Des Moines, Iowa. This is for Jalen, Devin, and Quentin. What kind of problems does Iowa present from what you've seen on tape from the Hawkeyes?
Jalen first, then Devin, then Quentin.
They're a great team all around. They have a couple of great shooters for them. They also have a big guy inside, so it's going to be a tough matchup for us, and we're looking forward to it.
Devin.
I think one of the things that we'll have to limit most would be their transition baskets. We had plenty of clips on our film where, the other team would score and they'd show, the person that scored at the other team's bench, and when they went back to game action, they were already down the court scoring. So I think one of the most important things for us would be getting back in transition and make sure we locate those shooters.
And Quentin.
Basically everything these guys just said, transition, and they got two really good players that we got to try to limit. And they were a top 25 team for most of the season, so they're going to be a pretty good team. But I think we'll come out ready to play.
Next question's on the right side on the aisle.
Mark Nartucci, the Philadelphia Inquirer. Quentin, could you tell me how you guys were so thrilled to get there and everything, how you put that aside and get ready for this game now?
Yeah, after we found out we were in the tournament, all that is behind you. You got to prepare for the first opponent that we're going to play, which is Iowa. So the past several days, that's what we've been doing, just preparing for them and trying to get ready for Friday.
Next question's on the right side toward the front. Chad.
Chad Leistico, Des Moines Register. Let's go with Quentin and Devin on this. Anyone you guys have faced that reminds you of Iowa's Jared Utoff and Peter Jock that you guys have been able to go against this year? And how would you match up against them?
Let's go with Devin first, then Quentin.
I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that I think resembles those two guys, but like we've been saying, they're good players, and it's going to be a challenge to stop them. With Jock, we got to make sure we chase him around all of those screens, make sure we try to limit the amount of good looks that he gets. And Utah, he's a good all-around player, so we just got to try to limit him in any way possible.
Same. I can't really think of anybody either, but like Devin said, we just got to try to limit their touches and try to contain those two.
Next question's on the left side, right on the aisle.
Sean Pastor from Owls Daily. This is for Jalen. I wanted to ask, technically speaking, what is it about your foul shots that you sort of describe what you need to work on? Besides repetition, is there technical things that you focus on there?
No, I just got to focus more every time I get to the line. Don't worry about missing, just focus on making them.
Next question's right on the aisle on the right side.
Bob Rookover from the Philadelphia Inquirer. This is for Jalen and Devin. As Philly kids, what do you remember about Temple basketball growing up? And when you get there, do you feel like you want to get it to that place that it was when you were a kid?
Jalen first, please, then Devin.
What I remember is it was a tough defensive-minded team, when I was growing up. That's something that I wanted to bring here when I came, to Temple, just be a tough defensive player and make it hard for the offensive to score.
Yeah, I remember Temple being obviously an all-around good team. A lot of the years when I was coming up, when I was starting to get into college basketball, Temple was typically a top 25 team. So, just knowing that, always knowing the history, and obviously being from Philadelphia, I know a little more of the history, like, that the sixth winningest program in college basketball and everything like that. It's just a great tradition. So, to be a part of it is great, and to be a part of the team that got Temple back to the NCAA tournament is a wonderful thing.
We're looking for the next question for student athletes from Temple. If you have a question, raise your hand. We'll send the microphone attendant in your direction with a question. Another one from Howard, then we'll go back to Chad.
Just curious, jumping off of that point, even having Villanova here in the bracket and thinking in those terms, does it feel almost like a parochial battle here, like an opportunity for not just a chance to advance and win some games in the NCAA tournament, but to sort of strike a blow for Philadelphia basketball as well?
I don't know if anyone is looking at it that way. I think we're taking it one step at a time. We're just trying to focus on what we have in front of us. Right now we have Iowa in front of us on Friday, so that's all that we're getting prepared for with our film work, our practice plans and everything like that. It's just all focused for that game, because we know if we don't win that, then there is no moving on. So take it one step at a time, focus on what we have right in front of us, and hopefully that plays out well for us.
Next question, front right to Chad.
Devin and Jalen again. Chad Leistico, Des Moines Register. You guys have been very successful in games decided by 5 points or less. What attributes would you say has contributed to that?
Jalen first, please.
Just staying together as a team, not getting down on each other, just taking care of the little details. If it's rebounding, boxing out, just keeping guys out the lane, just staying together and staying as a team.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Something that Quinn alluded to earlier. Just when we get down, maybe, or we get in those tight stretches, when we may come out of a timeout or something, we'll gather up together and just make sure that we know that we all have to do it together. You know, there's no 5-point shot or anything like that. So we have to stay together defensively and offensively in order to get everything that we want to accomplish done.
We still have time for questions for student athletes from Temple. If you have a question, just raise your hand. Want to go back to Howard?
Quentin, just in terms of, Coach Dunphy's history, and he's had a lot of success, but still looking to make that extended tournament run, the Sweet 16. How aware are you of that, and how does it feel to potentially have an opportunity to be the leading scorer on a team that finally breaks through for him at this point in his career?
It's great. The opportunity ahead of us is great. Just getting back to the NCAA tournament is a blessing. Being on the team, like Devin said, that got back to the tournament is a blessing. So we just want to try to make a run. So.
The next question's all the way to the front on the aisle.
Hey, Quentin. Josh Verlin, City of Basketball Love. The last time you guys were in the tournament, you were a freshman, you didn't play, but what did you learn from guys like Khalif and the way they handled themselves that tournament that's, you're putting to use this year?
Just to leave everything out there on the floor, especially for the seniors. Each game that we play potentially could be our last game, so just giving everything we have on the court, and yeah, that's it.
Next one's on the right of the aisle.
This is for Jalen and Devin again. What players do you remember as kids, and how much does Aaron talk to you about the tradition of Temple basketball? And also, Coach Dunphy made the point last week of after you guys made the tournament that he showed you that banner, and pointed to that banner at Leocourt Center with the NCAA teams on it. How much did that mean to you guys when he did that?
Jalen first, then Devin.
Yeah, like you said, one of the greatest players that stands out to me is Coach McKay. Just having him on the coaching staff right now is an honor. Just watching him growing up, being from Philadelphia, somebody I looked up to growing up. Like you said, when Coach Dunphy showed that banner, just to have 2016 on it now, it's a blessing and an honor.
Yeah, like Jalen said, Coach McKee obviously stands out, but it's a lot of the older guys that have graduated come back and are actually around. We have guys that are around. Mark Macon is around a lot. Mick Kilgore is around a lot. Even more recent guys, Chris Clark is around. Luis Guzman was a point guard on that team with Deontay Christmas and those guys. So, we have a lot of guys that are around Temp Park, a whole lot of wisdom on us, and just make sure that we do everything we can to be the best people and players for Temple University.
We have time for one, maybe two more questions for the student athletes from Temple, if there are any. All right, we'd like to thank Quentin and Jalen and Devin and Devontae for joining us down here in the main interview area. They're going to rejoin their teammates in the locker room, which will be open for about 17 more minutes. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be joined in just a few moments by Temple head coach Fran Dunphy. Coach Dunphy will be down here in about 2 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon once again. We're joined now by the head coach of the Temple Owls, Fran Dunphy. The locker room remains open with all the Temple student athletes for 15 more minutes. If you're interested in those interviews, Coach Dunphy joins us right now. We'll ask Coach to begin with an opening statement, and then we'll take questions for Coach Dunphy.
Well, we're happy to be here, happy to be in the NCAA tournament. Know the challenge that's in front of us by a terrific University of Iowa team, coached by a good friend, and so there's a few storylines floating around out there, Philly storylines, but again, happy to be here, and hopefully we represent Temple University and Philadelphia very well.
If you have a question for Coach Dunphy, please raise your hand. One of our microphone attendants will bring the microphone in your direction. Please remember your name and media outlet before you ask your question. We'll start with Chad in the front.
Hi, Coach. Head Coach Chad Leistikow, Des Moines Register. Maybe can you throw us one or two Fran McCaffrey stories and describe your friendship?
Well, we go back very, very far. He was a little bit younger than I. I remember watching him as a high school basketball player, very, very impressed with how good a player he was. He went away to college for a year and then came back to the University of Pennsylvania. The similarities are there with a number of our guys over the years who have done that, to include two of those guys that were just up here a little bit ago. But I think he's had an unbelievable coaching career. He's done a great job at the University of Iowa. I can remember his dad being a Philly cop, and part of his chores at the end of his career were to take care of the palestra. And so I would see him all the time. And his mom and his dad were very, very terrific basketball fans and great Philadelphians. And so it's a terrific Philadelphia family. And but we see each other often in the off season.
Next question's on the right side.
John Sears, WHO-TV from Des Moines, Iowa. What kind of challenges does it present in covering guys like Utah and Jock?
There are huge challenges. Utah is one of those guys, just has such great understanding of the game. I think there's a reason why he's got as many blocks as he does, because he anticipates as good as anybody that we've played against. And he seemingly has no weaknesses. He can obviously make shots from the perimeter. He can drive it. He can pull up jump shot. He can drive it all the way to the rim. And he makes plays for his teammates, too. So he's a multi-dimensional guy who is very, very difficult to guard. And Jock, he's got as good looking a jump shot as you see. He looks like he's always in rhythm. I was watching the Illinois game on tape yesterday, and there was a stretch where he was just burying every shot that he took. And he's got the ability to get it to the rim as well. So those two guys present great challenges for us. We can't let them up for air. And yet, they're going to get their stuff, and we're just hoping that we limit it.
Next question is to the left of the aisle.
Fran, Kevin Cooney from Calkins Media. The Iowa's struggled down the stretch here. Do you focus when you're doing scouting more on what's going on the last 3-4 weeks, or what happened the previous 2 or 3 months before that?
Well, I don't think too much about their struggle. They are really a good team, and I think this is a whole new world. The NCAA tournament is a fresh start for everybody. And I've watched a number of those games on tape. There were a lot of missed shots that weren't missed by much. And a bad break here or there can result in a loss. The life that we lead, the fragile nature of the life that we lead is sometimes the games come down to a made shot or a missed shot and a bad pass or a non-rebound or whatever, and that's just the way it is. But they're really good, and we realize that. So we're concentrating on their individual skills, but also how they play as a team. For example, they're great at, if we make a shot at one end, if we relax, they're going to run it right down our throat and get a really good shot at the other end. So we got to pay attention to those kinds of details. So that's what you're watching.
4 questions on the right side. We'll get things started with Howard.
Coach Howard Meddell, Vice Sports. I'm curious, just sort of 2 parts to this. One is, when you look back at the transition that you made from Penn coming to Temple, how much the significant and just sort of you being essentially at the center of Philadelphia basketball in virtually every conceivable way eased that transition and made it easier for you? And then just in terms of how that relates to this weekend's festivities, to be facing someone from Philly, to have Villanova in the next bracket, how familiar it all feels to you as you're experiencing it?
Well, first of all, my transition from Penn to Temple was made easy because of John Chaney. And so he and I talked at length, and I've said this all the time. If we had a 2-hour talk, I talked for 2 minutes. He instructed me as to what it was going to be like should I take advantage of this opportunity. He's a great mentor, a great friend, a great competitive rival of ours, and so he made it easy. He accepted me into the Temple family and made it easy. The fact that I didn't have to move, and not too many guys in my profession have been in it as long as I have and lived in the same house since 1984. So that made it easier. As far as this weekend is concerned, yeah, Fran obviously has some Philly ties. Utah and Jock don't, so they're not worried about anything Philly when they go up to try to make a shot. And then Villanova waiting on the other side. I'm sure the Villanova guys are going to be saying, we got to take care of our business against Asheville, and then whatever happens, whoever, they're going to be ready to play. We've already played Villanova. We know how good they are. But, you know, we have a tough task in front of us with Iowa.
We have another question on the right side, actually the row right in front.
Coach Jesse Spector from the Sporting News. You've been in the tournament on and off since 1993. I want to know how the tournament has changed since then and how your preparation for it has changed over that time.
Well, I think you always do the same thing. You know, you're preparing as if you were in another big game coming up. You know, we took the necessary rest that we needed on Sunday. We started to get back into our routine on Monday. Now here we are on Thursday. We're finishing up our process of trying to prepare for a very good basketball team. It's changed a little bit. The excitement level is different, but I see the same excitement in the players. They're fired up about this opportunity, and they want to do their best. And it really is going to come down to how poised they are tomorrow. Can they make that tough shot in the lane with a lot of traffic going on? Are they going to pay attention to the defensive assignment? So as far as a coach is concerned, it's always exciting. It's always when your name is called, when your name is called and you're not sure you're going to get it called, when it is called, it's unbelievable. It's as good a feeling as you can have for your student athletes. When it's not called, it's pretty devastating, as it was last year. We thought we had done enough, and we didn't. So every year brings a different challenge. Every team brings a different set of dynamics with it. So this particular group seems to have enjoyed living on the edge, and we'll see what we can do tomorrow.
Coach, the next one's on the right side toward the front. Nicole?
Fran, Nicole Auerbach, USA Today. Not looking ahead to Villanova potentially playing them here, but that you have played them and you mentioned that you know how good they are. The knock on Villanova has been they haven't been able to get out of the first round the last few years. What makes you think that this year's team is different? And obviously you're so familiar with Jay and the Philly hoop scene. So why do you think this year's team can make a deeper run?
Just because they're really good. They're really well coached. I think Jay does as good a job coaching basketball as anybody that I watch all year long. His guys play hard. They play competitively. Defensively, they dig in. They've got a bunch of really good basketball skilled guys. They have the requisite toughness that they need. So I don't think there's any limit on what Villanova can do. And it's just the luck of the draw, the luck of the jump shot, the luck of getting the rebound at the right time. I don't think it's anything other than that. Again, going back to the fragile nature of the lives that we all lead.
To the right of the aisle.
Bob Brookover, Philadelphia Inquirer. Fran, you obviously made a big deal about getting into the tournament. You said you showed the banner to the kids. Where do you see the state of the program right now after missing 2 years being back in the tournament? And do you feel like you guys can get to the place where John had the program at one time?
Well, getting to 5 Elite Eights in the time that he did, that's an interesting task, no question about it. We need really good players to do that. I like where we are. We don't think we're that far away. We're in the tournament this year. We felt like we had done enough last year. The year before was sort of an aberration. We didn't play very well, and we didn't do what we needed to do. But I like our incoming freshmen. I like the guys that are coming back for us. So we're going to be as competitive as we possibly can. We'd like to think we can get back to the big stage again next year, but that's going to be a tough task too. Our league is outstanding. That's a new adjustment that we've made as well. We're going from the Atlantic 10 to the American. it's an adjustment. You know, just the travel alone is an adjustment. So life is about making those adjustments, and hopefully we can continue to put a very, very representative basketball program out there.
All the way up front.
Fran, Marcus Hayes from the Daily News. How often do you think about your personal NCAA tournament record, and do you think it is indicative of your body of work as a coach?
Well, we haven't had great success, no question about it. No, we haven't been wearing white shirts too many of those years either, but that's the way life goes, you know. So would I like to have more wins as a basketball coach in the NCAA? Sure. When I think about it, when I used to walk my dog, I would think about it all the time. I'd like to reverse the number, but that's not what life has presented to me. But I do think that we've done a good job of whatever our staff has been of putting the kids in the right situation to try to graduate, to play the best basketball we can, and I'm proud of what we have accomplished.
On the left side.
Paul Gotham, pickingsplinters.com. Quentin's role with the team, can you put into words how truly valuable he is with your program?
Well, he's critically important to any success that we would have, whether that is making shots at the right time, making plays at the right time for his teammates, because he can do both of those things, and I think he's got that capability, so he's critical. Where he can make the most strides for his game is the defensive end, the rebounding end, and really just being as good a teammate as he can be. He's been terrific for us. There have been many, many games where it's come down to a last shot opportunity, last minute, the last second of a possession. We've given him the ball and said, let's go win it for us, or go make a play for us, and he's pretty much done his job. So he's had a great career. He's got a lot of points to his credit, and his team over the last couple of years has won a lot of games. So he's done what we've asked him to do.
Do two questions on the left.
Fran, Kevin Cooney again from Calkins Media. Following up on Marcus's question, do you think coaches are judged too much by what they do at this time of year? I mean, you know, Jay's under a little bit of heat now because they haven't gotten out of the first round the last couple of years. You've had your struggles. Do you think sometimes people from the outside look at the coaches and judge this weekend maybe more than they should?
Not necessarily. I think when we sign the papers to be head coaches in this world, we know what the pressures are. And I think Jay handles it spectacularly. And he's, again, in my mind, as good a basketball coach as there is out there. And I hope that we've done a formidable job as a staff whenever we put our stuff out there. So, but you know, you're judged out. People are going to judge you, and do we think about it? Sure we do. We'd love to win every game, but I think overall, the bigger picture we're looking at is, have we done our best? And hopefully we have.
Another one on the left of the aisle.
Hey, Fran, Sean Pastor from Owls Daily. I had a couple of questions. First, about this season. You know, you seemingly made a decision early this year to sit Devontae, to play a little smaller, maybe to sacrifice some defense for a better offensive team. Is that accurate, and could you just describe sort of the process of coming to the decision with the lineup that you generally go with?
Well, I think you do a lot of things as a coach. There's so many dynamics that go into putting a lineup out there. Devontae lent some good things to us defensively. Offensively, he's not as polished as we are when we have Jalen Bond and Obi in the game, or Mark Williams for that matter, or Dan Dingle when we went a little bit smaller. So a lot of it depends on matchups. A lot of it depends on what we think we need. But I can only tell you that there's a lot of thought that goes into what's best for your team. But Devontae's been a valuable member of our team, and he's sacrificed a lot over his years. And I would tell you that the best part of what he has lent this year is how he's accepted it and his attitude, and he's always there for you.
We have a follow-up.
Okay, a second question about looking at past recent NCAA tournament history. You've had a couple of kids, Scooty, Samajin, who quite literally in the last game of their college career in the NCAA tournament had the worst shooting game of their life. You've had a few guys like that. Is that something you've reflected on, how they, you know, how that came about and whether that's something to address with respect to Quentin or Devin or, the pressure and so forth.
The pressure's there. As I talk about all the time, the pressure is such a privilege to be in those situations. And Scooty just had a difficult shooting game. Samaj had a difficult game. But they're your guys, and they have worked so hard to put themselves in that situation. So it's a balancing act, and sometimes you make a decision to take a guy out of the game, and sometimes you say to yourself, the odds are that he's going to make the next one. So, but I don't think it's something you reflect on greatly during the course of your preparation. You're just hoping that somebody like those guys that you mentioned are going to step up and make a shot, or somebody else is going to step in. Khalif Wyatt dominated games for us, and you hope he continues to do that. But we need to give those guys the opportunity to perform in those settings.
We'd like to thank Coach Dunphy and wish him luck. Thank you for joining us down here, Coach. Coach is going to head back to the locker room, which should be closed by the time he reaches the locker room. We'll see you back here tomorrow evening, Coach.
All right, thanks.
We'd like to recognize for all your sports information and communication needs, Temple's Hall of Fame Sports Information Director, Larry Doherty. He's assisted by Connor Doherty and Karen Auerbach this weekend. Any further interview requests can go to Larry or Connor. We'll be joined back here in the main interview room by Villanova. That starts at 12:50 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, we're joined now in the main interview area by Villanova student athletes Ryan Archidiacono, Daniel Ochefu, Josh Hart, and Chris Jenkins. The remaining Villanova student athletes are available in the locker room area for the next 30 minutes. In 15 minutes, we'll allow our student athletes to return to the locker room, and head coach Jay Wright will join us down here in the main interview area. Right now, we're looking for the first interview question for any of the student athletes from Villanova. We're also looking for our microphone attendants who are on their union-mandated lunch break.
Oh, thank you.
And here they are. Name and media outlet, please, first.
Josh Verlin, City of Basketball Love. For Ryan and Daniel, I mean, you guys have accomplished a lot in your Villanova careers. Just how important is the concept of legacy to you guys, and how important is this run towards that concept?
And let's have Ryan take that first, followed by Daniel.
It's definitely something that we take great pride in, playing 4 years at Villanova. We know that this run could maybe add to it, but we just know we have to take it one game at a time, and we want to be able to have our teammates and the past players who have played at Villanova really look at us and appreciate what we have done for the program and what our whole senior class has done.
Daniel, same question.
Could I answer it better myself?
And with that, we'll move to the right, toward the front.
Joe Giuliano, Philadelphia Inquirer. For Daniel, how's your ankle, and how have you spent the last 2-3 days?
My ankle's fine. I've been getting a lot of treatment in, and with our trainers and staff, and rested it a couple days. Got back to practice yesterday, practice today, so I'm feeling good, feeling like I'm ready to go.
On the left side, on the aisle.
Another one for Daniel, just following up, Ruben Frank from Comcast Sportsnet. How tough has this whole stretch been since you originally got hurt? You've tweaked a couple times, missed some time. You're coming down the stretch of your senior year, and you've been in and out. How frustrating has it been, and how encouraged are you by how you feel now?
It's been very frustrating just because I want to be out there 100%, giving my all for the team. But, if I'm 85, 70%, if I'm out there, I'm going to give, whatever I can for the team. And I know my teammates are ready to step up and, filling the void whenever I'm out or if I'm hurt. So, confident in my teammates' ability to step up when I'm not there, but I'm feeling real good about how my ankle's feeling, getting ready to get to work tomorrow.
To the right of the aisle, Howard.
Ryan, Howard Megdal from Vice Sports. Sort of a two-part question. As someone who grew up immersed in Philadelphia basketball, I'm wondering just what was your awareness of Fran Dunphy and stories you heard or anything like that about him, and just to the other part of it, there being so many Philly connections in this region, and just the extent to which Philly basketball continues to dominate the scene, the level of pride you have, and why you think that's happening.
I just think there's a lot of great universities and schools in the Philadelphia area. I think Coach Dunphy recruited me out of high school, and I took a visit there and loved the staff, loved everything about Temple. But I just think overall it's just a great city of basketball, and I think we all have great respect for each other. And anytime we compete, it's going to be a battle, whether it's the Big Five or anyone else. So I just think it's overall a great basketball city.
Next question's on the right in the middle, Josh.
Ryan, Josh Newman, Asbury Park Press. You've played your fair share of games at the Garden, and you've played here. Are there any distinct differences between the atmosphere here or the atmosphere at the Garden?
I think usually when we're at the Garden, we know we're either playing St. John's or in the Big East tournament. So once you're in the Big East tournament, there's a great feel around just the whole area. And every time we've come here the past 2 years, it's been a great preseason tournament environment also. But I think the Garden is just, when we play, like I said, St. John's and then the Big East tournament, there's just a great atmosphere. But you can definitely get the sense around Brooklyn that the NCAA tournament's around, and we're excited to be in Brooklyn.
Any questions for any of the student athletes from Villanova? We'll go back to the left side of the aisle.
It's for Josh and Chris. I don't know how close you guys were in high school, but you came in together from the same part of the Maryland, and how big has it been to kind of have each other to lean on through this process, freshmen, sophies, and juniors, and coming from the same area, playing against each other in high school and all that?
We'll ask Josh to take that first, then Chris.
It's been great having someone that you know from back home, in the same class with you, going through the same struggles, to stay in positive moments as you. So it's been great having him, right there, talk to me when I'm down, talk to me when I'm up. I think he, say the same, but he had a little part where he was struggling, and now you see him breaking through, giving everything to the team. So just like to see that, for me is just, rewarding. Just 'cause, one of my best friends, seeing him, striving for greatness, just being successful is just something great to see.
Yeah,
Chris,
just like Josh said, it's been great to have somebody like him to go through everything with. Our relationship has gotten stronger, and it's something that we'll carry on even when we graduate. So I'm thankful for it.
Continuing with questions for the student athletes in Villanova on the left.
Paul Gotham, PickandSplinters.com. Ryan, last year's conclusion, can you use that for motivation this year?
I think we try to look past that, and I think we were probably more upset about the game in the weeks following the game, but you can't use it as motivation throughout the whole season, trying to focus on one game. And one thing we always try to do at Villanova is take it one day at a time, one game at a time, and try to approach every game the same way. And I think we've been doing that even after our Seton Hall loss in the Big East tournament. Excuse me. That we just try to get back to practice and get better, and hopefully we can take it one game at a time here and focus on UNC Asheville.
We have a few more minutes for questions for the student athletes from Villanova. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We have one down in the front for Joe.
Yeah, for all the players, UNC Asheville seems to have a lot of quick guys, but really no one very tall. I think the tallest guy in the rotation, 6'6". What do you see when you watch them on film, and what are the big things to be concerned about with them?
Let's start with Ryan, then go to Daniel, then Josh, then Chris.
We know they have great athletes on the floor. They're all like 6'2" to 6'6", and they really get out in passing lanes. They're one of the top defensive three-point field goal percentage teams, and they cause a lot of turnovers. We know they get out in transition a lot. So even though they might not have size, they play bigger than their size may seem.
Daniel.
I mean, just their size and height doesn't really matter because in film we see them post up a lot of their 6'5", 6'6" guys post up a lot of the 6'10", 6'11" guys. So that just shows the confidence that their coach has in their abilities in the post. So just because we're bigger doesn't really mean anything in this game.
Josh, same question.
Yeah, just kind of can add on to what they said. They're a great team. They're able to switch 1 through 5. Obviously, they're tough on the glass, tough, on ball, physical. Get like Ryan said, get their hands in pass lanes, create turnovers. So it's just because they're smaller. I think we can, that doesn't really, doesn't mean everything. They're a tough group of guys, and it'll be a good, it'll be a battle.
And Chris.
Yeah, they're a great team, well coached. They go out there and they play hard. So it's going to be a great game for us, great test for us.
We have time for 3 or 4 more questions, if there are any. We have one on the right side.
For all of you guys, you say you don't really think much about the early departures the last couple of years. Is there anything that maybe you can learn from them that you do differently coming to this game, whether it's preparation or maybe it's just, I don't know, a superstition that you say, hey, all right, I did that last year, I'm gonna change my socks this year or something along those lines. But anything that you think of that you say, I'm going to do this different this year from last year.
We're going to take that the same way. Ryan, Daniel, then Josh and Chris.
We always try to focus on doing the same exact thing. I don't think we have any superstitious guys on the team. That's a completely different team last year than we are this year. And just try to do the same thing we've been doing all year and try to just play harder than the other team, play more together, and try to out-rebound them.
I think, as Ryan said, just not focusing on, things that went well for us in the past or, focusing on the disappointment of the game. I think just focusing on this year and this game we have ahead of us, UNC Asheville, and, we can't really harp on the past too much. I think we've done a great job of, eliminating that from our memories. Obviously, we're in the NCAA tournament, so it's going to be fresh in our minds, and everyone's going to be asking us about it. We're going to be thinking about it a lot, but we do a great job. As soon as we step on the court, we could cancel that out of our minds and, focus on UNC Asheville.
Yeah, just adding on what they said. This is a totally different team than the teams we had the last 2 years. But everything is staying the same. We're not going to go out there and do something totally different. You know, we're going to stick to our core values, stick to, you know, doing what we do. And, you know, if we do that, you know, we're going to be successful regardless.
Chris.
Yeah, we're just focused on UNC Asheville because, you know, that's our next game. And if we don't come out to play, then, you know, it can end early for us again. So we just have to make sure we take care of business.
We have a few more minutes for questions for the student athletes from Villanova. If you have a question, just raise your hand. We'll send the microphone in your direction. Any further questions? One more for Howard on the aisle just to the right.
Ryan, just something I noticed last weekend. You came out of the Georgetown game, you took like an extra second, you looked up at the crowd. It seemed like you were trying to sort of take it in, and I'm wondering if that's been part of your mindset as you are in even potentially the last 6 games of your collegiate career, if it's something on your mind.
I don't remember that specifically, but maybe as I was running off the floor, I was looking for maybe my parents or something like that. I feel like we always know where our parents are sitting for games, but it's not anything I've tried to focus on. Definitely at the Garden, you embrace the moment, and I think that's what I try to do the whole time. And I try not to make it about myself, because if I tried to make it about myself, or if Daniel and I made it about our senior class, it would mess up the rhythm of the team. So we try to just keep the focus on everyone and not just us.
Any further questions for the student athletes from Villanova? All right, we'd like to thank Ryan and Daniel, Josh and Chris for joining us. We're going to allow them to head back to their locker room and be with the rest of their teammates for the next 17 or so minutes. The locker room will be open. We'll be joined here by head coach Jay Wright in just a minute. How you doing, Coach? It's good to see you. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, we're joined right now by head coach of the Villanova Wildcats, Jay Wright. We'll ask Coach Wright to make an opening statement, then we'll take questions.
Thank you. We were thrilled to be back in the NCAA tournament. We never take this for granted. We've enjoyed every part of this, from the selection show to leaving campus and having everybody out there waiting for us to get on the bus. Very psyched to be in Brooklyn. Great venue. We've played here the last 2 years. Everyone here treats you so well. Classy place, fun place to play. Crowds close to the court. For a big arena, it's going to be exciting in here. Playing in a sold-out Barclays Center. And we got a great opponent, a very impressive team, Asheville. Nick McDevitt's done a great job. I mean, to have 2 freshmen like Smith and Sutton that are playing the way they are, and a couple sophomores in Vanetta and Thomas. Sam Hughes, the only starter. They're a very, very good defensive team. It's the classic mid-major nightmare in the first round. So that's what you get in the NCAA tournament. But we're psyched. I think we have great respect for them, and we're psyched to play them.
First question for Coach Wright is going to be on the right side in the middle. Josh?
Josh Newman, Asbury Park Press.
Hey, Josh.
You've spoken before about your affinity for playing in New York and playing at the Garden. You're obviously in New York, but you're not at the Garden. Does it feel differently when you're playing at Barclays as opposed to Madison Square Garden?
It is a little different. It's when you're at the Garden, it's like pure tradition. You feel like it's old school New York. When you're at the Barclays Center, it just feels like it's like hype hip hop New York. It's everything's new and black and hyped. It's just different. I love both of them. But for our fans, our strongest alumni base is the metropolitan area. So when we're here, our fans love to be here. We're having major issues with tickets because the NCAA cut back tickets this year, and this place is sold out. We've got a lot of people that normally come when we're in New York that can't get in.
On the right side, Nicole.
Nicole Auerbach, USA Today Sports. Hi, Jay. So you've talked about it, and you've called it the elephant in the room, the early exits the last few years. How do you address it if you do with your team, and then how do you handle being asked about it a lot, and maybe it's on your mind, but then not letting that affect the games?
You know what, Nicole? It's been a big part of our season. It's been a big part of our program. As soon as we lost to NC State last year, it became a big issue, even in the off season. And when we started the season, it was the first thing everybody talked about. So we had to talk to the team about it and just say, okay, this is just something we're going to have to deal with. As soon as we lost the game against NC State, we said, hey, we got to own this. We lost the game. We didn't realize we'd be talking about it this much. So during the season, everything that we did, there was always an afterthought. Whether we lost a game, someone would say, well, it doesn't matter, because all you have to do is get to the second weekend anyway. If we won the Big East Championship, that people say, well, that doesn't matter. You got to get to the second weekend. So we spent a lot of time trying to teach our guys that this season does matter to you. You're college basketball players. You only get to do this 4 times. We really talked about that a lot. And I'm really proud of how our guys handled it. To win a Big East regular season championship, win 29 games, with everyone still saying this doesn't matter. I was really proud of them. Now we're back at that point where if we had not had a good season, we wouldn't even be in the NCAA tournament. So we wouldn't have a chance to get, past the first weekend. So now we're finally at the point where, okay, we could do something about it. I think to our guys now, it's like, okay, everything everybody's been talking about, now we got to go do it. And we realize if we don't do it, it's going to be a major issue again, but we've dealt with that. So we're actually at a point now where we can really enjoy this and just concentrate on one game at a time and really concentrate on Asheville.
2 questions on the left side.
Jay, Kevin Cooney, Calkins Media. Chefu last weekend was really limited at times because of the ankle injury. Given the week, has anything improved with him, and do you foresee using him in the same role you did at the Big East tournament?
You know what? Today, we practiced today at St. Francis College. Today was his first full look, 100% practice. So I can say he's 100% good to go, and no issues. He'll start, he'll play like normal. And that was our goal, was try to get him through the Big East tournament, not make that ankle any worse, shut him down for a couple days. We shut him down Sunday, Monday, we shut him down. Even Tuesday, we shut him down Tuesday. So today, he looked really good.
Staying on the left, just 1 row back.
Jay, Josh Verlin, City of Basketball Love. In a similar vein to Nicole's question, what do you feel like the legacy is for your current seniors, and how important is this potential run to, what that legacy could be?
Interesting. Within the Villanova family, their legacy is going to be the winningest class in Villanova history, and I think Daniel Chefu will go down as one of the great big men in Villanova history. I think Ryan Archidiakono will also go down as one of the great guards ever in Villanova history. But as a class, and they have 3 walk-ons with them, who Henry Lowe, Kevin Rafferty, and Pat Farrell, who are really important to the Villanova people. Whatever they do in this tournament, they're going to go down as one of the all-time special classes, winningest. Now, nationally, we realize their legacy is going to be based on what they do in the NCAA tournament. It's just what college basketball is. So we obviously care much more about our legacy within our program, but we understand the national legacy is important, and I think that's how it's going to play out.
I'm sorry, we'll stay on the left side and we'll come back.
Paul Gotham, PickandSplinters.com. Looking at Asheville, and in particular their 3-point defense, what makes their defense behind the arc so effective?
I wish I could, we don't have time today, but with coaches, I wish we could sit down and talk about what they're doing, which I think is just awesome. I think Nick McDevitt's done a great job. He's on to something really good there. They're like the old Louisville teams with Denny Crum, where everybody's 6'5", 6'6". They can switch everything. So if you get your 5-man, if they get their 5-man on your point guard, he can guard them. And he can get out. So there's nobody on the floor that they can't guard. So whatever three-point shooter gets open, every guy on their team can guard him. And they do a great job of it. That's what Denny Crum's team used to do with all those 6'6" guys. They switched everything. But the three-point shot wasn't as impactful then. Now it is, and they're using that same size to take away your three. It's smart. They do it really well. And it's easier said than done. You got to teach your guys how to do it, but they do it well.
On the right side in the front.
Hey, Jay, Bob Ford, Philadelphia Inquirer. Following up on that sort of matchup theme, it's great that Daniel's healthy, and I'm sure you're happy to have him 100%. But can you envision this game playing out in such a way because of their size where you elect to go smaller in order to chase them around?
Yeah, that is what's funny, Bob. I mean, you say, we got to get Daniel back. We do, but then now we get UNC Asheville in the first game, and they don't care what size you are, and they're gonna post. They post up. They played Georgetown. They played Tennessee. They post up Georgetown 7-foot center with Hughes at 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", and they do it well. So there's definitely a chance, and one of the things we're happy about is that we can play. So when we saw that matchup, we're like, wow, that we could struggle being big. It could be an advantage being big, but we also might have to play small sometimes.
All the way on the right, all the way in the back. Mike?
Mike Vaccaro, New York Post. Jay,
What's up, Mike?
How you doing? Obviously, there's a lot of perks that are attached to being a college basketball coach, especially in an elite program. Does it take some getting used to, despite all of that, that you can win 27, 28, 29 games and still have people grumbling about what you didn't do? I mean, is that, in most walks of life, you have that level of success, people understand that you've succeeded, but I mean, it just seems like a different thing you have to get used to if you're kind of in the kind of job you're in.
Yeah. Well, I think you started it perfectly, Mike. We get a lot of perks being in our position. We get a lot of praise. So, and we try to teach our players the same thing. If I take all those perks and I take that praise in the position we're in, then you got to take the hits, and it's just part of the job. Life's a series of trade-offs, and we tell our players the same thing. When we play in front of 20,000 at the Wells Fargo Center, we win the Big East Championship, and everybody's going crazy, and all the media's around us. We don't turn that away. So when we get beat in the NCAA tournament, and they're criticizing us, we got to accept that. I think it's part of life. It's part of our jobs. It's just not you can't have it one way. And our Philadelphia media has been very fair about it. They bring it up, but they're not lying. It's the truth. And I want our guys to. It's a great learning experience for our guys. I wish we could teach it to them another way than losing in the NCAA tournament, but they're learning that you have to accept the circumstances of being in the limelight and getting praise, and you have to take the hits with that.
On the right side in the middle, Marcus.
Marcus Hayes, Daily News. Jay.
Hey, Marcus.
Fran Dunphy has his own issues with the NCAA tournament and his record. You just mentioned yours. Is the NCAA tournament success or failure the best measure by which to judge a coach? Is it indicative of what a college coach is or isn't?
I think that nationally, it's the only fair way to do it. I think it's fair because nationally, you don't get people in Kansas and California and Texas, they don't get to see us all coach every day. So what do they see? They see you in the NCAA tournament. What do you do? So that's your national perspective. I think it's fair. In Philly, and you bring up the greatest example, I think if you asked anybody in Philadelphia, they would say Fran Dunphy is one of the best college basketball coaches in the country based on what they see him do every day. It's reality, and I do think it's fair.
Just off the aisle, Howard.
Hi, Jay. Howard Mendel, Vice Sports. Just jumping off of that, in terms of Coach Dunphy, I'm curious, if someone who's been part of this Philadelphia scene as well for a long time, what, if any, stories stick out when you think about what Coach Dunphy has done? And then just the other part of that is, you guys were both recruiting Ryan. 3 of their top 4 players are from Philly. There's grumbling in New York about, the decline of the New York City talent, but it seems like Philly sort of endures. I'm wondering why you think that is.
The first question about Fran is what what amazes me about Fran is that when he was at LaSalle basketball was at the top of Philly. When he went to Penn, he had Penn basketball at the top of Philly, and nationally a great program, as was LaSalle, when he was an assistant at LaSalle, and when he played at LaSalle. And then he went to Temple, and he's got that Temple program right back nationally, NCAA tournament. He's a guy that's a winner, and he gets it. And most importantly, he's respected by everybody. You don't see that many people that are successful and respected by everyone, and it's a rare combination. To answer your question about Philly basketball, we have been very fortunate in Philadelphia that we have a lot of different leagues. We have the public league, we have the Catholic league, we have the Interact league, we have the Friends league, we have the suburban. We have a lot of different leagues that all produce players. And the Philly teams have gotten a lot of them, but there's a lot of people out of the area that have gotten a lot of great players. Emil Jefferson at Duke, Kansas has had everybody. That part I don't like as much. I like when they stay and go to the local schools. And I think that's important for all of us in Philly to keep those guys home.
Next question's all the way on the left side.
Hi, Jay. Jesse Spector from Sporting News. Just wondering, how much has the tournament changed since you first coached in it 16 years ago, and how has your preparation for the tournament changed over that time?
Well, I was in the NCAA tournament in the late 80s with Rolly Massimino as an assistant. And back then it seemed like the Blue Bloods, you just knew, you had a 116, 215. The Blue Bloods were going to get there second round. So it was just a given back then. Like we were at Villanova, and we beat Kentucky in '88, and it was like a major upset. It was incredible. People were shocked. Now, any of these teams, like you look at UNC Asheville. Some years ago, Eddie Biedenbach was coaching them, and they played Syracuse and basically had the game. Syracuse was a 1 seed. That was a 16. And it wasn't that, when you watch the game, it wasn't that surprising, The parity, the emergence of the 16, 15, 14 seeds, how good they are, and the younger that the older teams are, has created, I don't think anybody would be shocked if there was a 116 upset. They're not going to be shocked like they would have been in the past.
On the right side in the back.
Jay, Gary Dolphin with the Hawkeye Radio Network. You talked about Fran Dunphy. When you add Fran McCaffrey in, there's a common bond here, a thread of Philadelphia coaches. You talk about the great players. What's the thread? What's the common bond historically? Is it the Big Five? Is it just quality basketball, quality people, where so many good coaches come out of the community?
I think it's the Big Five because Fran, and myself, in the era that we all grew up, when we were kids watching coaches and watching basketball, Jack Ramsey, Rolly Massimino, Paul Westhead, all these guys, Jack McKinney, Chuck Daly, all these coaches in the Big Five, to us, they were Mike Krzyzewski, Tom Izzo. We didn't care. Honestly, at that time, John Wooden was winning national championships. I didn't even know who the hell he was. Obviously I've learned a lot. I've read a lot. But at that time, you looked at Jimmy Lynam and those, they were your idols, and they were great coaches. And they coached, they rarely had the best players, maybe like John Wooden did. So you learn how to coach and take pride in coaching without the best players. And then when those guys got players, they were really good coaches. And I think we all came up that way, and I definitely think it was because of the Big Five.
Final question for Nicole on the right.
Just an offbeat question.
Not from you, Nicole. What would that be?
In the coming weeks and months, there's the change to the NBA draft process. And so I was just wondering your thoughts on the change and how you players are going to be able to get more feedback before they make that decision. And also, the flip side that there might be more roster uncertainty for some of the coaches.
I think that is the first step in addressing the issue that College basketball is being affected by players leaving early, and the NBA is being affected by players early. This one and done rule. It's lessening the quality of both. And this is the first time the NABC and the NBA worked together. So I think it's going to be really helpful, where the problem with the one and dones is not the guys that go to the NBA that are the first round picks. It's not those guys. You know, it's not DeMarcus Cousins. It's not LeBron. It's not those guys. It's the 50, 60 guys that should be in college for 4 years and would be great players in college that wind up going overseas or playing in the D League. To have the guys identified by the NBA and to go to this pre-draft camp is going to make decisions for these guys. It's going to really give them real information. And then once they go there, you're going to get even better information to make an informed decision. A lot of these guys are getting bad information. They're making an informed decision with bad information. Now they're going to get good information, and I think you're going to see a lot better decisions. I think it's going to be better for the NBA, better for college, and then we can build on that, maybe get closer to the baseball model down the road.
We'd like to thank Coach Wright for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Good luck with tomorrow's matchup, Coach. At this time, the Villanova locker room is now closed, and we'll be back here in about 15 minutes with student athletes from Iowa. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon once again. We're joined now by student athletes from the University of Iowa. The student athletes that are not joining us here in the main interview room are available right now in the Iowa locker room. That's for the next 30 minutes. In 15 minutes, head coach Fran McCaffrey will join us down here. If you have a question for student athletes from Iowa, please raise your hand. Patrick and Erica have the microphones. We'll send the microphone to you. Please identify yourself by name and media outlet, and then we'll take your questions. The first question is coming up for Ryan, just to the left of the aisle.
Ryan Lazar, New York Post. Hey, Jared. You guys started off the year really strong, and then in the middle of February, things started to change. What happened, and how do you hit the reset button entering this tournament?
You know, we started off we lost a couple early games in the tournament, and the tournament we went to down in Florida. And I think that really woke us up, and we really had a strong middle of the season. And towards the end, I think the Big Ten season really started to wear on us. Day in and day out, you're playing great teams. It's not like you're playing poor competition. So losing to those good teams, I think, is a good learning experience for us, and I think we'll bounce back from it in this tournament.
Next question for the student athletes from Iowa is on the right side.
This question is for Mike. This is Scott Docterman, Cedar Rapids Gazette. Mike, when you see Josh Brown, who you're going to pose for most of the game on Friday, he's got similar numbers to you, an assisted turnover, takes care of the ball. What other things do you see about him, and how difficult of a matchup does he present for you?
You know, he's a guy that, you know, he's out there running their team. And, you know, I think it's a great matchup for me. It'll be a fun matchup. He's going to be out there pretty much the whole game. And, you know, he's a very good player.
Next question for student athletes from Iowa. Let's go back to Ryan up front.
You guys are all seniors. This is your third straight NCAA tournament. What can you take from previous lessons in this tournament and take them into this year?
We're going to go right down the line, beginning with Anthony, then Jared, then Adam, then Mike.
I mean, with the experience with this tournament, you have to, you know, come out and bring it and give it your all. You know, every second, you know, every possession counts. There's not a possession you have to take off, and you know, anything can happen in March and in these tournaments. So just by knowing that and understanding the process that we've been through, we just got to bring our A game.
Jared.
We've all experienced losing our last game of the year, and I think that's the biggest motivation for us. You know, we haven't won this tournament, we haven't won the Big Ten tournament, and I think you learn from that you lose, you're done, and I think that's the biggest lesson we've learned.
I think the biggest thing is that there's no tomorrow. It's a do or die situation, so we all want to go out on top in our careers and leave a lasting legacy at the University of Iowa, so this is our last chance to do so.
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much hit it on the head. You know, if you're not excited to play in the NCAA tournament, there's something wrong with you. So we're really excited for this opportunity.
Next question's on the right side in the front.
Mark Narducci, the Philadelphia Inquirer. Jared, what about that you see from Temple? What is it that impresses you the most?
From us watching film with them, you know, obviously we don't get much interaction with them. They're a different conference, but from watching them on film, you know, I've been impressed with the tempo and how they try to dictate the tempo. You know, they don't panic. They play within themselves, and they try to. They don't let. They make you beat them. That's.
Next question for the student athletes from Iowa. Just raise your hand. Any further questions? There's one. Right in the middle to the left of the aisle.
You talked about how Temple makes you beat them. Neither you nor Temple turn the ball over. I think both of you guys are in the top 20 in the country in turnovers per game. Do you prefer when a team tries to make you guys turn the ball over or stays back?
Jared, you can take that.
That's tough. I don't really prefer either one. It doesn't matter to me. We line up and play against whoever's in front of us. So.
Continuing with questions for the student athletes from Iowa, if there are any. There's one in the back left. Roger.
Roger Rubin from Newsday. Jared, you were talking about the
trends of the season and the downturn in the arc at the end, playing the Big Ten schedule, I think you used the phrase wore down. Is there a fatigue factor in play here for Iowa?
Not right now. You know, when you're in the middle of the Big Ten season, that's a different situation. You know, you have a game every 3 days or whatever the case may be. You know, right now we're recharged. We're ready to go. You know, a season is a series of peaks and valleys. You know, you peak at times, and at times you go through rough patches, and you learn from each experience. And I think we're primed and ready to go.
Any further questions for the student athletes from Iowa? If you have a question, just raise your hand. With no more questions, we'd like to thank Anthony and Jared and Adam and Mike for joining us down here in the main interview room. They're going to head back to the locker room and join the rest of their student athletes. They're available until 2:05 p.m. in the locker room. Thanks, fellas. Good luck. We'll be joined by Iowa head coach Fran McCaffrey in approximately 9 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, we're joined right now in the main interview room by Iowa head coach Fran McCaffrey. The student athletes are available for 15 more minutes in the locker room. Coach McCaffrey will join us right now. We'll ask Coach to make an opening statement, then we'll take questions.
We're just thrilled to have the opportunity to play in the NCAA tournament, represent the Big Ten. We have a team that I think this year performed extremely well. We've got an experienced starting five and a young group that came together behind them. We're playing a terrific Temple team with a fabulous coach in Fran Dunphy, and we're looking forward to the opportunity.
If you have a question for Coach McCaffrey, please raise your hand. One of our microphone attendants will make his or her way in your direction. And we'll start the first question with Hall of Fame Associated Press writer Jim O'Connell.
Hey, Fran. Talking to the team before about the way the season ended, Jared said you could attribute it to the wear and tear of the Big Ten season. Do you agree with that, or do you have another explanation for it?
Well, I think that's as good an explanation as any. I mean, you look at the scores, our losses were very close games, a couple possessions here or there. You get to a point where, teams scout you and you play them for the second time, sometimes. We also were in first place for part of that time, so, teams were coming after us pretty good. But I'm a little more pragmatic, when I look at it. Pretty much lost to good teams. Okay, we lost to some teams that we were probably supposed to beat on paper, but, you lose on the road at Penn State. Malcolm Hill hits a big-time step-back jumper, and you lose a 2-point game, against Illinois. I mean, those are things that happen in the Big Ten.
Next question up front to the right, Howard.
Hi, Coach. Howard Megdal with Vice Sports. You spoke about your counterpart on the sidelines tomorrow. Curious, as someone who's social with him as well, if there's a Fran Dunphy story that sort of stands out in your mind when you think of him, and if you could just speak a little bit about how you view his legacy just as a coach.
I don't know if there's any one story. I mean, I've known Fran Dunphy for a very long time. I mean, I played against teams that he coached in high school. He coached at my alma mater. I mean, obviously, his legacy there is to the point where they could put his name on the court. I was happy to see him get the opportunity to move over and coach Temple. It's been a great experience for him. But, you look at his record. I mean, he's averaged, I guess, 21 wins for a very long period of time. It's really hard to do. And he's been able to do it in the city that he loves, where he grew up and where he lives. His teams consistently perform a certain way. They don't beat themselves. They take care of the basketball. They rebound the basketball. They move the ball. They share the ball. All the things that, as a coach, you want your team to do. And so it's really not a surprise that they consistently win wherever he's coaching.
Next question's on the left side in the front.
Hi, Coach. Jesse Spector from Sporting News. Just going back to Lehigh, first time that you were in the tournament, and through today, what's changed about the tournament, and what has changed about your preparation for the tournament?
I don't know how much has changed with regard to the tournament. For us, it was a different experience. In '85, I was an assistant. We went to the tournament for the first time at Lehigh. That was a big deal. You can only imagine what that was like on our campus. But the nucleus of that team went back again in '88, and we played the #1 team in the country at that time, which was Temple. So that was an experience. I mean, literally, they were the 1 seed, we were the 64. So that was a challenge in a big way. I think if you look at the growth and how this tournament has evolved, I mean, the interest level just continues to grow. But, we had, in '88, we had Selection Sunday. It was a big deal. You had, everybody watched, and you didn't know where you were going to go. You were thrilled to have the opportunity to be in it. You felt like if you were in it, you had a chance to win. We played very well that day, lost to a really good team. So, I look at it like this, there's no such thing as an upset once you get to this tournament, because you won your way here one way or another. And I think that's the beauty of it.
Next question's all the way to the back.
Hi, Fran. Mike Kern, Philadelphia Daily News. Could you just talk a little bit about the bond that Philly guys, the unique bond that Philly guys seem to have, and And also, Fran said he thinks it's amazing that you've both been in the profession so long and have never crossed paths before.
Well, you understand it probably as well as anybody, and could probably explain it better than I could. But if you grew up there, you competed against each other somewhere. In those days, it was the Sunny Hill League, it was the Berberian League, whatever, the Catholic schools, the public schools, the Conshohocken tournament. There's a family feel there, and everybody that kind of came up that way looks out for each other. We spend time with each other at the Final Four, and it's gone on for years and years. I have coached against Dumpf before. I coached against him, when I was at Siena. We lost to them in the Palestra, and I coached against them again at Siena, and we lost at their place in Rob Kennedy's Christmas tournament. So I've coached against him. I've watched his teams. Dave Duke, his assistant was my assistant at Lehigh when we played Temple in '88. So there's a lot of camaraderie there. Dave's a dear friend. So it's interesting that we would end up here, with Temple and Villanova as well, because Jay Wright's another guy that I have tremendous respect for and have known, since we were kids. And so there's a mutual respect, but also understanding on that day we're going to try to beat each other up, and then we're going to be best friends, when the game's over.
Next question's all the way in the front.
Yeah, Bob Groats, Delaware County Daily Times. Good to
Bob,
see you,
see you.
Franny. Okay, you have the reputation as kind of a fiery guy during the games and that, and I was talking to Dave Duke, and he mentioned that one of his jobs was just to make sure that you stayed.
I had to watch out for him too, Bob. Dave could get a little cantankerous himself.
How do you, is that a product of just your competitiveness, do you think? Or is that like, the old players having been a player and players coach type of thing?
I think there's only one way to play the game. Okay, you got to compete. And, I think, I will be honest, I think sometimes I'm unfairly categorized as a guy that's constantly fiery. If you watch me coach, about 85% of the time, I just have my arms folded and I just watch the game. What will upset me is if we have repeatedly gone over something and then that aspect breaks down. So in other words, if you play for me, I'm not going to ask you to do what you can't do. But if I ask you to do a certain thing and you don't do it, and I know you can do it, that's going to be a problem. We're going to have an issue there. So I'm not the kind of guy who's constantly yelling and constantly griping and, you shoot the ball and I tell you should have drove the ball. You drove the ball, you should have passed the ball. I'm not that guy. I'm not in your face. I get out of your way and I let you play. But when we have a game plan, there's a certain expectation, how we're going to defend ball screens, what we're going to do in transition defense, how we're going to play a certain guy in the post. Well, I expect you to do that to the best of your ability because I know you can do it, and that's why I have you in that position. So I don't think it's any different than any other coach in terms of, holding your players accountable at the appropriate time and not being unreasonable.
On the right side in the front.
Fran, Mark Narducci, the Philadelphia Inquirer. I actually have two things. One is, could you tell me what you've seen of Temple, and especially a guy like Obi Anchinonia, who's 6'9" and can sort of like a stretch four and can really shoot it from the three-point area?
Well, I've been really impressed with Temple's team because I watched a lot of games, as you can imagine, in the last couple of days. And they play a unique style in terms of they're never rushed. There's never any panic in anything that they do. And one of, I think, Dumpf's greatest characteristics, he gets those guys to play with supreme confidence. So whether they're, the primary point guard or whether they're a wing scorer or whether they're a post-up player, those guys accept their roles and they go out and they try to do it to the best of their ability. Now, Obi, he can win a game all by himself. He gets going, and you don't find him in transition, or you lose him on a pick and pop. But he's not just a standstill shooter. He can go off the dribble a little bit. He can post up a little bit with his size. So, you know, create some problems for you in terms of switching and things like that. But, you know, you watch that team play, and we always go back to the same thing. They don't throw it away. So you're going to have to guard them when they come down the floor and stop them from scoring and rebound the ball. Because then you got Bond, who's as good offensive rebounder as there is.
To coach Jared and just to be around him and
Well,
just see his development.
Coaching Jared is a unique experience in and of itself because he's a different kind of person, and I mean that in a very good way. He's very casual in some of the things he does. You know, he doesn't get uptight. He's a fun-loving guy. His teammates love him. He plays relaxed, yet at the same time, he's a competitor. He'll make big shots. He'll take big shots. You know, he'll carry our team. But the thing that I love about him is here's a guy who's as good an offensive player in terms of overall repertoire that there is in the game right now. But he might be a better defender than he is a scorer. He's all-league defense, led our league in block shots. I mean, A.J. Hammonds was the defensive player of the year, and he had fewer block shots than our forward did. And he can move his feet and guard a 2, he can guard a 3, he can guard a 4. And I think that's what I love. I love how complete his game is. And I just let him go. You know, we give him the scouting report. Occasionally we'll have a conversation, but he's very professional in everything he does.
On the left side, Jason.
Jason Greenberg with ESPN, and just alluding to Jared, letting him go. That Iowa State game, I think it was 30 points in the first half, and then Peter Jock in the Big Ten tournament. You're a balanced scoring team, but on any given night, one player can have 30-plus points in the first half, and your coaching philosophy, I guess, with that, if you're in a good position tomorrow where somebody is on that hot streak.
When you have a guy like Jared, not one time in the time that I've coached him for 3 years, have I said, okay, that's a bad shot. Don't shoot that shot. And you have watched him. I mean, he's pulled up from, you know, say, well, he pulls up from 30. Well, he will pull up from 30 and shoot the ball. And he's made some and he's missed some. He had one, you know, it didn't come very close. But he didn't look over and say, hey, is coach going to be upset with me now? No, he knows. You have the green light to shoot the ball, wherever and whenever you want to shoot the ball. Early in the clock, late in the clock, late in the game. And I'm not going to say a word to you. And I want him to have that kind of, I want him to know that I have that kind of confidence in him, because ultimately then I want him to have that kind of confidence in himself.
Any further questions for Coach McCaffrey? There's one in the back left. Roger?
Roger Rubin from Newsday. During this last stretch, the 6 losses in 8 games, whatever it was that was the problem for your team in that stretch, do you think it's been addressed? Is it still a concern, whatever was nagging
I think
your
anytime
team?
you lose, you know, you're going to be concerned. Okay, what are, you know, I think part of your question was, okay, what was the cause? It's never one thing, okay? You know, you look at a couple of those games, we had more turnovers than assists. Okay, well, then you can look at, okay, that was the problem in that game. You know, where was the rebounding in that game? What were the shooting percentages? What kind of production did we get off the bench? Did we do a good job defending their key personnel? Did we do a good job defending the things that they like to do, whether it be set plays, transition, you know, and you got to put it all together. When, you know, and that's the thing as a coach, when you lose a 2-possession game, essentially, you know, Indiana came into our building late in the season with a chance to win the regular season championship. If we won, we would still be in contention for the league championship. And we have the last shot of the game down 3, and it's in and out by our best 3-point shooter. So that's how close we are. So, you know, it's not panic city by any means, but it's basically what our job is to coach and figure out how can we make 3 or 4 adjustments, 5 or 6 adjustments that will help us win a close game rather than lose a close game.
Is there a final question for Coach McCaffrey? In the back? On the right,
Coach Ryan Fannin with Villanova Radio. Coach, if you could just maybe talk about the 2 Michigan State wins, the 2 Purdue wins, and what you guys did in those 4 victories, and maybe add your overall 2 or 3 biggest strengths collectively of your team throughout the year.
Well, the first Michigan State win, they were ranked number 1. Valentine didn't play, so nobody really paid much attention to that one on a national level. Although I will say that I think we played about as perfect a game as you can play defensively, and that enabled us to really get clicking offensively. Now, when we went up there to beat him, we got some attention because he was back, and then we beat him, I think, by 17 up there. We shot it well, we moved it well, we defended well, and I think we defended the way you need to defend to beat good teams. The Purdue games were different. I mean, we go on the road, we're down 19 in the first half at Purdue, packed house, place is going crazy. We pressed them, we didn't panic, we came back and won the game. They came back to our place, they got a lead, we came back and won that game. So we played very well in both of those games. So I think all 4 of those games that you were referring to are indications of how we're capable of playing against really good teams. So when you play defense, take care of the ball, move the ball, get good shots, and get production off from a variety of different people, you know, if that happens for any team, especially this time of year, you got a pretty good chance to win.
We'd like to thank Coach McCaffrey for
Thank
joining
you.
us. Wish him luck tomorrow evening. Tomorrow day or tomorrow evening? Tomorrow afternoon. Thanks, Coach. We'll be right back here at 3:45 with West Virginia, 4:30 with Notre Dame, 5:15 with Stephen F. Austin, and 6 p.m. with the University of Michigan.